रास्ता है कह रहा अब मुझसे, मिलने को है कोई कहीं अब तुझसे। ये रास्ता है कह रहा अब मुझसे, मिलने को है कोई कहीं अब तुझसे। दिल को है क्यों ये बेताबी, किससे मुलाकात होनी है, जिसका कब से अरमा था शायद वही बात होनी है। यूं ही चला चले आई, यूं ही चला चले आई, जीवन गाड़ी है समय भैया। आंसू की नदियाँ भी हैं, खुशियों की बगियाँ भी हैं, रास्ता सब तेरा तक है भैया। यूं ही चला चल रहा है, यूं ही चला चल रहा है, कितनी हसीन है ये दुनिया, फूल सारे झमेले देख।
Hey everybody. While everyone is trickling in, we'll take the next couple of minutes to maybe share one new thing that we learned recently in the chat box. Can be anytime in the recent past, doesn't have to be only in the last week. Also, if I could request everybody to be on mute, that would also be great. Thank you so much. All right, maybe we can get started. Thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. I know it's quite a hectic season for all of you who are applying. And I just want to take some time to maybe share a little bit about what we are here for, what we can expect today, and also share a little bit about the circle for anyone that is new to this ecosystem. At the circle, we operate with a simple but deeply held belief that every child, no matter where they come from, deserve a life filled with opportunity, choice, and dignity. To work towards that belief, we have 3 programs that we offer. I will just take a second to share my screen. The 3 programs that the Circle offers, firstly, which is our newest, is Circle U. It's a series of network of teacher colleges and preparatory programs that we are hoping will fuel the system with better, more prepared teachers that will hopefully create ecosystems of learning that prepare the students better for the 21st century. Second is Circle Labs. A lot of you might have engaged with Circle Labs. These forums are also a part of it. It's a platform for offering short-term programming, workshops, mentorship, coaching, and also micro grants to everyone who wants to basically reinvent how education happens in the country, and also to support all of you educators who to build capacity and to even test out new ideas and innovate in the field of education. Lastly, is Circle Incubation, which is a 2-year program for launching a network of schools or after school programs that are transforming the lives of young people from India's low income communities. Each year, we have a cohort of entrepreneurs who are selected for this, the applications for which are live right now, and will close this weekend on the 22nd of March. This information session is the last information session that we will also be doing in this application cycle. However, if you have missed out on any of the previous informations, don't worry, we will share the recordings with you as well. But basically, the incubation is a full-time opportunity for anybody who wants to create a reinvented space of learning. It can either be a school or an after school. And as long as you're committed to transform the lives of young people from low-income communities, there is a place for you to apply. To take you through a brief snapshot of this journey, a few of you might have seen this before. The first stage is the application, which are currently live, and it will close on the 22nd of March. It does take a few days to fill out the entirety of the application form. So if you haven't started yet, I would highly, highly encourage you to. The application form will close at midnight on the 22nd of March. The second stage of the application is and selection is the Incubation Conference, which is on the 15th and 16th of April. The third stage is the Sandbox. We learn much deeper about what the IC and the Sandbox entails on today's call. And then the incubation itself launches, which will launch in September of this year. Each year, we have a cohort of about 10 to 12 entrepreneurs that are selected. So, if you join the cohort this year in September, you will graduate in early 2028. But post that, even after the incubation, it's not that the support ends there. We continue to offer a lifetime of support from February 2028 onwards in different areas such as strategy, fundraising, compliance, and even monitoring and evaluation. To take us through what the IC and the Sandbox entails, I actually have two very special people joining us today. I have Siddharth, who's the Director of Coaching Support. And if you do end up getting selected for the incubation, then he's somebody that you would engage with very, very deeply over the course of 2 years that you'll be with us. We also have Vaishnavi, who is the manager at Circle Incubation, who is also going to be a very, very present face in your lives at all of the modules once you do join us. Siddharth and Vaishnavi are at the helm of designing many of the pieces that are involved in Incubation Conference as well as the Sandbox. So they are the best people to ask all of your questions to. I'll briefly maybe get started with inviting Siddharth first to share about himself, his role, and then we can get started right into what the IC and the Sandbox is. If you do have any questions that are coming up while they're speaking, please feel free to use the chat box. We'll host a space for Q&A just after they're done sharing the information itself. All right, over to you, Siddharth.
Thank you for that, Anaga. Hi, everyone. We have almost 50 folks here. Lovely to be here. So I'm Siddharth. Like Anaga said, I work at Circle in the incubation vertical. I lead all the one-on-one support that we offer our entrepreneurs as well as their leadership track. And I'm looking forward to just walking us through the two most important stages post-application, which is your incubation conference and Sandbox. Before we do that, Vaishnavi, do you want to just give a quick intro and then we can jump in?
Hi everyone. Excited to be here. Excited to see so many of you and your note takers. I'm Vaishnavi and I've been working with the Circle for close to a year now, and I work with the incubation team and work closely with all our entrepreneurs. I'm excited to share more about the selection process with all of you. Yeah, let's start.
Awesome. Let's go. Okay, so today we're going to broadly cover four things. Right? So one is like what incubation conference in itself is, what is Sandbox, and how to think about preparing for both. And finally, we have a good chunk of our time with Q&A. And our hope is like, you walk away feeling clear about what's coming and also like what we are actually looking for from you. Yeah. Okay, so I think Anagash shared the journey, right, from application to incubation conference to Sandbox and finally to the incubation in itself. And for IC, we typically select around 30 to 35 folks, which is a stage 2. And then from there, we get into 15 to 18 folks in Sandbox. And then from there, we get 10 to 12 entrepreneurs and residents for our incubation cohort. Yeah. Question to move the slides. Let's get to the IC part. Okay, so I'm going to share, let's start with Incubation Conference. That's what's coming up soon. So your Incubation Conference is a 2-day in-person event. It'll be held in Bombay. For folks staying outside of the city, we'll also cover your travel and accommodation. So it brings together almost like 30 shortlisted participants. We have the Circle team. We'll have a group of experts, industry leaders, both from ed and also the private sector. And over the 2 days, you'll have a chance to share your big idea and also just get to engage with peers who are on a similar journey and with folks in the industry who just care about the future of learning in India. Right? And at the end of the 2 days, at the end of it, the 15 to 18 folks will be invited to the Sandbox. Okay. So what the 2 days are actually going to look like broadly are these few things, right? So one is we want to help you get clear on what your vision for the kids really is. We have spaces for you to, of course, network, but also get feedback on what you're building. It's a reflective space. Of course, they're going to probe you, but the intention is less on proving and more about collectively can we make sense of what you're exactly up to. And the hope is that by end of 2 days, you leave also with a uh, having built certain relationships with the broader ecosystem because you have a good chance of meeting a variety of individuals, not just peers, but also folks in the broader industry. Okay. We have a couple of core experiences that form what's going to happen in the 2 days of IC. Of course, we're going to begin the space with Sandeep, who's our CEO, to just anchor us on what Circle is, what is our vision, beliefs, and our incubation program. And then from there, we get into what we call as case studies, which will be a actual contextual challenge, a case that we present, which has data in it, and you just have to walk through it in a consulting format, analyze situation, and arrive at recommendations, similar to how you might do at a consultancy space, right? So that's your case study part. The advisory is space for you to present your big idea. It'll be a panel of around 4 people, which includes ed experts, private sector leaders, you'll have students or young adults, and also circle entrepreneurs, right? Who will spend around 2 hours with you, along with a small group of your peers. And the hope there is like you're able to share your current understanding of your context, the problem you're trying to take on, and your approach to affecting it through your school or after school program, right? So that's the advisory space. The third is the reinvented learning showcase because it's all about we're about reinventing learning. That's our core. So this is a space for you to present on for a 30-minute space to present what learning actually could look like in your school or after school. It's a chance for the peers to also get a window into like what would it mean for a child to be in your space, and you also get to see others, right? So that's the experience. You create an experience of what reinvented learning could look like. And finally, of course, we have networking spaces. We intentionally design spaces for you to have lunch dates with the industry leaders, so you get a window into like how they are approaching their work, and also hopefully you leave with having built some relationships you can take forward, irrespective of the outcomes. Okay, and having said all this, what does it mean to prepare for the IC, right? So primarily we're looking for these three things, right? So if I put in 2 words, it's about clarity and conviction. Conviction is around like, why are you wanting to do what you want to do, right? Why are you on this journey? So just conviction in that. And who are you designing these spaces for? Who are the children and community you're committed to work with? um, and finally like what is it that you really want to shift or enable with the children of the community, right? So but broadly like why and who and the what, and if you can bring these in, I think that's primarily the hope of the space. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna pause there for IC. So to just summarize, it's a 2 day space. We have a couple of experiences there from case study, advisory, reinvented learning showcase, and spaces to just network. Um, and what we're looking for essentially is like just the clarity and conviction in why you do, what you're doing, and who are you doing it with. Yeah, so that's your IC. We're gonna get into Sandbox and post this. Thank you, Surya, for that. That's helpful. Post this, we'll also have space to Q&A. Yeah, so I'll just walk you through briefly, and then we'll have a good amount of time for question and answers. Okay, so that's just stage 2. So we've gone through application stage. You've completed IC, and the post IC, you have 15 to 18 folks joining us Sandbox, which is the final stage of our selection process. So let's dive in on what Sandbox is.
Okay.
Okay, so as I said, Sandbox is the final stage of selection. And it's essentially like you get a taste of what the 18 month of incubation will feel and look like. Right? It runs for 8 to 9 weeks approximately. And during this time, the intention is like you're testing some critical assumptions of your model on the ground. You're working with uh, coaches from Circle team. You'll of course have your peers to brainstorm with and problem solve as you begin to build your first prototype, right? And the intention of Sandbox is that it has to be a learning ground and not a proving ground, which means like whatever prototype you're designing and implementing, the intention is not like you just make it work. The idea is like all of us are in early stages and you want to just test something so critical. And the reason is you're testing for is like you don't have an answer, but you have some hypothesis. So how do you create a minimum viable prototype for what your eventual model could be over a couple of weeks or months, and to see like what learning has emerged from that. So that's the intention of Sandbox. And broadly, like what happens during Sandbox are few things. So there are these three key experiences. So every week we follow a learning loop. It begins with a master class where around a specific topic like problem solving, needs analysis, creating a model hypothesis, how do you design a prototype. So every week has a specific masterclass. And once the masterclass is set, you want to turn that into action so that you can implement on ground. So that's where the check-in comes in. The check-in happens with your Circle leadership team member, where they help you make sense of the masterclass and also arrive at a specific action and help you create an action plan for that week, right? So post the check-in, which happens right after masterclass, the next day likely, you have the rest of the week to just execute. And finally, the triad coaching is to bring to your peers what happened. You wanted to do something, you tried it, and at the end of the week, you want to present on like what exactly went down, and your peers can help you just problem solve for something or help you make sense of it. So that's almost like a consultancy protocol space. So that the triad coaching is your three peers plus one. It could be a Circle entrepreneur or a Circle staff member, right? Who will be the coach in that space. So this loop continues for the 8 weeks. I'll share a little bit on the time commitments very soon, but broadly, this loop continues for the rest of the Sandbox season. Okay. Yeah, so just want to emphasize like anyone who joins the Sandbox, because the intention is like, so in ICU, we spoke about clarity and conviction. Here, you want to get into like how committed are you towards the problem you're solving for and with which audience. So, which means like it requires you to be physically present at the location where you'll be actually testing and building your model. Yeah. So, for example, if you're going to be starting a school in rural Rajasthan, the expectation is that you are there in that village or the place, and you're running the sandbox in that very space. It doesn't have to be with the same set of kids, but a similar demographic you're working with. So, just want to emphasize that. Okay, so like I said, I think Sandbox is almost a snapshot of what incubation actually feel like. In fact, your incubation builds off of what you did in the sandbox, right? And few things that you're gonna look for is like, because you want to have, I mean, you want to have a learner orientation, because all about like, I don't know something, let me go try it out and see what's emerging. So learner orientation, and finally just the ability to act, because it's a tight schedule of 8 weeks, from moving from doing a needs analysis in the community to landing on a prototype to actually testing for it and then making sense of it, right? So it's a quick design sprint you're engaging with. So just being a learner and also having high action orientation. That's broadly what I would say we're looking for. Okay. Okay. Time commitment. Like I said, we have master classes, we have check-ins, and we have triad coaching. Are the structured spaces, right? Plus whatever you do on ground, because each week you're getting on ground and any implementing what you learned in the masterclass. So approximately we estimate like 8 to 10 hours a week along with pre-work and stuff. So that's what it would take, right? And again, like this is not something outside of what you'll be doing, right? So if you're an existing early stage program, you're still thinking about like, what is something I still don't know that I really have to test for? Because the key word is like you're testing for something critical and unknown. So which means it is critical for you and you don't know about it. So it adds to your work and adds value to your work. Nothing outside of that. We don't decide what you should be testing on. You decide for that. And if you are in an idea stage, you don't have any solid program already established, you're starting from scratch, then it's also valuable for you, right? So the invitation is to see like how is it integrated into your existing work and not something outside of that. Okay, that's on the time commitment. Timeline wise, so for IC, the invitation for selection goes out on the 1st of April, and the IC in itself, the 2 days happens on the 15th and 16th of April. And the Sandbox invitation go 2 weeks later, 1st of May, and then it runs from June to July approximately. Yeah. And we should be sending you the final invites for selection results for the incubation by end of July. All right, I know that was quick, and my hope is like we use the Q&A space to just get a lot more clearer, and I'm happy to go back to any other specific slides you want. Yeah. How are you all feeling? Let's get into the questions.
Thank you so much, Siddharth and Vaishnavi, for sharing. I do have one question which I got on DM, which was, could we cover the KPIs and deliverables that are expected of the candidates during the sandbox? Vaishnavi, you can take that one if you wish.
Yeah, so like Sid shared, there's a learning loop that we follow where you have master classes at the beginning of the week, followed by a check-in with your coach, and the week ends with a triad coaching. For every master class, there will be a certain milestone that you will have to complete, which you get the week's time to document learnings and finish that milestone. You work on that milestone with your coach. I can maybe share like some of the topics we cover in the master classes. Yeah, so you will be spending time thinking about your zoomed out vision, spending time thinking about the children you're working with, your target audience. Then you move on to things around community needs analysis, where we nudge you to do some primary data collection, some secondary data collection. So the milestones for that will be related to these topics. Then we move into developing your model hypothesis and the objectives and ideas you want to test for. You think about the diagnostic assessments you want to then deliver on ground. And the sandbox kind of ends with you actually building the prototype that you want to test. So that is the rough structure we follow. And then each masterclass will give you a milestone that you need to work towards. Yeah, Sid, you want to add anything?
Thumbs up.
Okay, I'm gonna see
All
the
right.
chat.
There's one question. Mahir, do you want to come off mute and ask that though? Because I feel like that'll help.
Yeah, sure. Sorry if it wasn't clear enough. But so I have an idea, but at the same time, I I'm not sure if it falls clearly within like a after school program or clearly within like a school program. Like, is it something that I need kids to commit for 6 hours a week, or is it a full-time commitment? I just wanted to know that within your experience with the cohorts before us, have there been times where kids have like people have come in with projects that started maybe as an after-school program and then maybe changed it to a school program, or the other way around? Because I want to know that how much can my idea evolve from its core structure?
Yeah, very fair question. Absolutely, man. I think we have a couple of examples where folks have evolved from an after school to school. That's the one I've largely seen. I've seen less of school to after school, but the expectation is not like once you say, let's say you enter incubation feeling like it's going to be an after school, you just have to stay only that. Your the community you're serving and the vision you're holding, that largely just stays, and your conviction towards building something for the community, that stays. The model in itself could evolve over a period of time, and that also means
Okay.
like you're learning and really considering the real context.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
So the next question is from Neha. It's a logistical question. So what if you're working in a place where and your sandbox has to take place in another geography, and you currently can't quit your job? How have you navigated situations like that in the past?
Um, Yeah, I mean the base expectation is to be in the location for most of the period. Once in a while, I think if you want to go back to where you're currently placed, that's fine. Because the if you're committed to building something for long term, and Sandbox is the final stage because we're going to be walking that journey with you for a really long while. That's the kind of incubator we are. We don't we stay committed to you for not just for a few months or years. We are in this building with you for the long run. So which means the relationship is such which requires you to show the commitment right early on, which could be the downside for some other folks. And I understand it's challenging, but the expectation is you build it and you move to the base where you're building.
So the next question
Okay.
is it a prerequisite to know the testing group where we want to perform the prototype? Can we decide it during the sandbox?
By testing group, you mean the children in the communities that you want to serve, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, being in the IC, because IC space is where you'll be articulating your those three things, right? Like why am I doing what am I doing, who am I really want to serve, and what is your relationship with that group. And hence my vision is evolving from that context, that group's context. So hence you would have landed on the community you want to serve right from the IC itself.
Yeah, I can
uh,
rephrase this question. Sorry if it. I mean, yes, I think that we know the community. Let's say we know the community we want to work, but let's say in which school we want to perform in that community, or basically
yeah,
logistical
yeah,
part,
yeah,
not necessarily the area, but like which school is it, like a private school or government school? Basically, I think because we also have to arrange for this, right? Like talk to some local
absolutely, yeah.
authorities. So is it okay
So
if we do it during the sandbox? That's right.
it can, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So basically, when the sandbox kicks in, you'll be going through like the first one of the first masterclass you have is on the problem statement. Where you'll go into the community, really understand who my community really is. That's
Mhm.
when you will visiting, and then you slowly get into landing on. Okay, that's the school I want to work with, or the group of kids I want to work with. So I think you have a window there in the sandbox.
Mhm. Okay. Okay.
So there's a longer question on the chat if you want to answer that. It says that
Mm.
they've been doing workshops with students from a community in Kalyan, and they're already supported by an NGO and they go to a school, the students that they want to work with. Can I conduct their after school there, or would there be a conflict of interest? Varsha, can you elaborate a little bit of what you mean by conflict of interest?
So basically, so they already go to a school and they already have a bunch of activities that the NGO introduces them to. So am I still eligible to do classes in that? Or because I am like speaking like the way I got in touch with the school was through this NGO. And they told me that, the students there really need the kind of classes that you are offering, and if I'd be willing to take up workshops with them. So can I continue in that space or no?
Absolutely, you can, because you're solving for a very specific need, and it aligns with the kind of the group of kids eventually you want to work with. Let's assume that it's kindergarten or middle school or whatever the age group is. If that aligns with
Mhm.
you, then that should not be a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Uh, Thank you, Siddharth and Vaishnavi, for such a detailed like explanation about how the IC is going to help and Sandbox is going to help. But my question is, uh, I mean, I've been already running a pilot, got a lot of data or through it, and uh, there are few changes that I have to do. I think it's quite up to the first question somebody asked,
Mm.
something related to that. So if I have to change the model a little bit, is that still okay out of the data that I've already gathered? And
So what I'm hearing is like you've been running this program for a while.
yeah, I mean, yeah, for Not too much. Like I think it's from last 6 months I've been running this.
Okay.
There are a lot of
And
learnings that I've got through this process, and
yeah,
yeah,
you're running this program for 6 months and you have some learnings, and now you have an evolved understanding of what the model could be, right?
yeah.
And hence, what is the question?
So is it okay? Will that be also be accommodated, like to experiment in the later stages?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it works in your favor because now you have been on ground for a bit, tried out something, you have a better understanding of what it is, and now you have a deeper understanding of the context and also what it takes. So I think
Okay.
that's really helpful. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you, Siddharth. Thanks for answering.
Um, One question, maybe, Vaishnavi, you could take this. During the sandbox, while designing an after-school program, how should we think about the children's time commitment during the prototyping phase? Would it be more appropriate to engage them in lighter formats, once or twice a week, to build trust and consistency, take feedback, or is a more regular, in-depth schedule expected from the start?
Yeah, so the sandbox is also designed in a way that you would eventually get to a point where you set a rhythm on how often you want to interact with the children. Like there will be milestones which will then lead you to having to interact with children. But it also depends on the idea that you are testing and the hours of intervention you would need to get clarity on the hypothesis that you want to test with the children. Yeah, that would be my say.
Does that answer your question, Nog?
Yeah, I think so. I think the priority should be on the design and getting feedback. Thanks.
All right. Sid, there was a question on if you are doing the sandbox and IC, and you're currently doing it in partnership with a parent organization, does the structure of the sandbox change in any way for those who are going through that route?
Sorry, say that again.
So, the candidate is
Hmm.
applying for the incubation in partnership with a parent org.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're just asking, is there any difference in the structure of the sandbox for those who are going through that route versus setting up their own organization?
Yeah, I mean, for a sandbox stage, I think it's still fine because it makes it easy for you to really test out. When it comes to incubating, I think it depends on the relationship you have with the parent organization. Ultimately, you can be supported, but are you running a thing of its own? What is the relationship essentially? How much of an influence, let's say, are you an employee of the organization running a thing, or are you the entrepreneur who is able to lead and influence your own choices and take it forward? So I think it will be depending on the relationship with the parent org. But in IC and a sandbox, I think it's good to just test out if you have a ready set of kids.
All right. Prashansa, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you, Anaga. Hi, Siddharth, Vaishnavi. Thanks so much for all the information. Very helpful. I had a question around the testing community, I think building off of what Aman asked as well. So let's say if I've spent time with one specific community, from where my program model has come out, right? The whole vision is rooted based on that community's context, and that's what gave rise to the program model, right? But for the sandbox, is it okay if I would like to test that model um, with a different community from the same region? Is that acceptable in the sandbox?
Yeah. And the reason you're testing in a different region is?
So basically, the way I'm thinking, one of the big questions that I would have to test my prototype is how culturally relevant it is, right? It's a broader question, but in the community's context, the specific community that I work with, which also takes into consideration the regional context, obviously. I do have some insights from my time in the community from my first pilot, right? So if this is my second pilot and I would like to kind of expand that understanding, would that then be okay?
Yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The core is like, if you've been running generally a program, let's say, I think it's a similar question someone had asked, like, I'm running for 6 months, I've got some learnings, and hence you make a choice, conscious choice of shifting or pivoting into something else. There's no penalization there. It's for a reason you're moving, and
Right.
absolutely, please do that.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Yes,
Wait.
go for it.
So if that is okay, my follow-up question is, the community, because the program is for children, right? The community that I've been working with just has more number of children, right? But the other community that I would now like to test my model with might have lesser number of children. Um, is that something I should be, how should I be looking at it? Like, is that something, would that impact the testing a certain way? And I know it might in a particular sense as a researcher, but how can I still make a smaller group of children's experiences and learnings that come from it still relevant for the model
Mm. So
for the
you're saying
testing?
like let's say you're doing it for 30, 40 kids initially, and now you're testing in the new location with
Maybe
10,
10,
15,
that's it.
10 kids. I think that should be okay.
Should be fine.
Yeah. In the sense, like, you don't have someone disagrees.
Sahib, I
Uh,
think.
Anika, can you mute them?
yeah, I mean that the guiding principle here is what is a decent, if you could get a decent size, but there are contexts where there are honestly like only 10 kids,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And if that is going to be the location of your model also, the question that will emerge is, how are we going to get, as you build out, let's say, a school, to get more kids, enough kids to actually be fundable, enough kids to actually have a school in the first place, if the surrounding spaces there are no kids in that whole village area. And we do have those challenges, few of our entrepreneurs, because it's so remote, and there are no neighboring, there are no areas actually. So there is a cap on the number of kids. If that cap is by default so limited, then that might be a question raised on. So are you building for 15 kids for the rest of this one, or what's your plan? Is the model to run these mini centers across multiple spaces? So the model might evolve then. But at a pilot stage, I think should be good. My nudge would be like to get at least 10, 15 kids. Fewer than that might not give a decent learning.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Aman?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First, like on the sandbox, like specific about the sandbox, you said like there are going to be 8 iterations, like 8 weeks, and every week has a single iteration. So, like, are we getting like so? Basically, my question is like, on what parameters one would be getting judged and evaluated on, like, or these weeks, like, each week is also going to play a role, like, on the selection. And then the other thing is the outcome, right? The outcome is a prototype which can be done with a set of kids.
Yeah.
When does it, like, does the prototype has to be at the end of those 8 weeks, or can it be done, let's say, on the fifth or sixth week also, and then one can continue doing their weekly sessions? So yeah, it's a combination of timeline and also how we will be evaluated and judged.
Yeah, fair question. So, one is like, it's not 8 iterations, yeah. So each masterclass leads to get you to design the prototype eventually. So let's say, to
Okay.
land on a prototype, I need to understand what exactly is who am I actually serving? Am I understanding my community? Hence, there's needs analysis, problem statement, defining my vision, coming up with a broader model. And out of that model, let me test something that I really don't know. To land on like, what do I really want to test for? You go through these 3, 4 things,
Okay.
which might take, let's say, 4 or 5 weeks of the key master classes. So we have folks who have run prototype from the middle of the sandbox itself, like you said. So you're free to do that, absolutely. So we just want to see, like, are you able to get on ground on a weekly basis and do what's required to get testing. That's really meaningful. Because
Okay.
when you get into the incubation, the 18 months is exactly that, where there's good focus on designing, listening, designing, iterating,
Trying.
and then evolving, right? You're doing that for the entire 18 months until once you graduate, you're launching your first year of programming. So your 18
Makes
months is in a
sense.
design sprint.
Makes sense.
And this is a microcosm of that. And like Vaishnavi
Okay.
said, each week ends in that a milestone. While of course it's a document, but we don't evaluate essentially on a weekly basis
Yeah.
because sometimes the windows might vary. Things might happen, life happens in a week, etc. So you're not like super objective about it. But are you moving in the direction of meaningfully designing and testing a prototype? Are you on ground with the kids doing what is required? That's the broader piece. And the last 2 weeks is your site visit. So we just come to your site to really get to know you and your community. So we're not just sitting behind a screen and making that assessment. We are actually with you, and just to get to know you really well. And
Yeah.
post that is when we have a more informed consolidation of the entrepreneur.
Yeah. Just
Was
to
that helpful?
add,
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
yeah,
Vaishnavi.
I was saying just to add, the evaluation is more around like the competencies than just, okay, does your prototype land well or not? But it's more about like through the 8 weeks, are we seeing you show that willingness to go on ground and test? Are we seeing you show up to spaces with that willingness to learn and engaging with your peers and coaches? It's more around like these competencies that Sid also mentioned towards the end.
Okay. Makes sense. About the, you said like there will be a visit, no, site visit, and that's going to be during the last 2 weeks of the sandbox.
Yeah,
Yeah.
approximately.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, specifically, I asked about the timeline thing because of it said in the slide it said June and July.
Yeah.
Okay. But when does the first week start of Sandbox? Like, is it going to be in June or like can be in May? Because I think the initial, at least like 1 month ago, the dates were May and June, right? Like, so the reason I asked because I personally, I mean, I'm planning for it, so I had applied for holidays or like around that. So that's why I want to know this part to be so that I can check. But again, if it's a very personal question, I can take it later
Yeah.
also because I don't want to take other people's time. Just one
We wouldn't
question.
want to come in between your holidays, that's for sure. So last year it was I think mid-May to end of July. So we're also still finalizing the exact dates.
Yeah.
Let's genuinely hope we're gonna get back to you. I think just write to us as a reminder. We can get back
Yes.
to you the exact dates sooner.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Because
let's
what
assume
I had
it's
planned,
mid.
let's say 1 month before, was for May and June, not for July at all. So I can, but yeah, again, like if I can get some, like, we can discuss this. Then I think there is room for
Yeah.
Thank
flexibility.
you. Thanks,
Just
Aman.
one more question on Sandbox, just a minute one. For performing the prototype, is it going to be some side of micro fund or some? Is there going to be any funding involved as well, or it's something which we have to arrange for ourselves?
Yeah. For Sandbox, there's no micro grant that we offer.
Okay.
Once you get incubation, then we have these micro grants in the larger funds. But we do actually, like, just last Sandbox, we got folks to just raise funds. Just build your muscle because that's the reality, and I think it's a good space to really test out. Can I raise funds? Because that's going to be part of your reality for a good amount of your entrepreneurial ride. And the budget is also quite small, so we actually get folks to we help you connect. We can do those. We're going to bring in connections. Our entrepreneurs are well connected, but conversion, that could be on you, and it should not
Yes,
be too
makes
hard
sense.
to make that raise.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the answers.
Thanks, Aman.
We had one question in this.
I see Anand is raising hand
Yeah.
from Delhi.
All right, go ahead, Anand, and then I'll ask Nataraj's question.
But we can't hear you, Anand.
Yeah, I think audio may not be connected.
Anand, do you want to try disconnecting your mic and then reconnecting it?
Some
Yeah.
other question meanwhile, Anagha.
We can't hear you. All right. While Anand figures that out, Nataraj is asking, can you share any examples of successful models that were tested out during Sandbox, like any that come to mind?
Mm. All those who got through
Yeah.
Sandbox are in incubation, but I'll give you some specific examples. I came in prepared for this. Let's see. I mean, one is like and if you have seen Riggson's work in Leh, so when she came for Sandbox, she wanted to essentially revive the indigenous knowledge of Ladakhi ways of living in her children, because Ladakh is she feels it's dying, and also went to her side. You can see like there's no glaciers in the mountains, so she wants to bring back the Ladakhi ways of living. And her hypothesis there was, will the elders who hold this wisdom of, let's say, ancient water management systems and whatnot, will the elders be willing to uh, transfer and share that knowledge with the children in a nice, well-designed learning experience? And can the children actually learn from it? Right? That's what she wanted. She was wondering, because if that breaks, then who's going to do this transfer of knowledge? Because they are the one who hold that knowledge. So her model will be very different, right? So that's what the critical unknown assumption was, that elders will be willing to facilitate, and young adults will be willing to learn and actually absorb that learning. So she created a model around, I think they taught some local cuisine, Ladakhi cuisine, about how we actually cook and what's the value of it. And I know that's her model. Currently, if you go to her place, it is designed around these, all the different topics are run by actually elders as facilitators. It's quite cool. So we have few other pieces like that. And of course, we have folks who, ran with that model. It was helpful. And after 1 year of doing that, they realized something new or different, and they evolved it. But they still are, of course, rooted in their community and their ultimate vision. That stays. But the model could be evolving as you learn more.
Yeah. There's one interesting question on what we do on site visits. I can share
Uh,
maybe and then you
yeah,
want to add. Yeah.
go for it. Go for it,
So
Vaishnavi.
the idea is to actually see you in person firstly, because Sandbox is entirely virtual and all the programming is happening virtually. So when the Circle team visits you on site, they'll essentially observe your prototype in action. They will spend a lot of time in understanding you and your motivation behind, again coming to the incubation. We'll assess for the core competencies that I discussed. There's also some kind of a co-creation for the next like 90 days for you. And yeah, I think the idea is to basically just align on some kind of a common ground. It's also a space for you to get clarity on any questions that you might be holding about the incubation in general. But yeah, these are the broad objectives. We spend around a whole day with you when we're on site. Yeah.
Anand, do you want to try coming off mute now? Still
Now,
can't hear you.
now we have to get through this question. I'm very curious.
Anand, you just want to
Put
type your
it on
question
the
down.
chat. Yeah.
Yeah, if that helps.
The collective purpose of this 56 individuals in this call is to hear you out, Anand. We shall not leave.
Devashish, go
Devashish?
ahead.
Yes. Thanks, Vaishnavi and Anaga for conducting this session. So I think the question is similar, but I was just curious because ultimately what we want to build is an alternative school model, but we are already working with uh, children in kind of similar communities, and we are also working with children who study in government schools. So during the sandbox phase, so does this count as the testing of the idea and the learnings that we gather from working with children and in different spaces, whether it's community centers or the school spaces? So we can present these experiences and learnings during our, I think conference as well, right? And ultimately, we want to go towards that path which we envision.
And Debashish, you're saying your model is you have your own after school learning center and you work with a bunch of schools also where you run spaces?
We run community library centers actually.
Run community library centers,
Yes.
right?
And
Yeah,
then we
I think
also work with
absolutely.
government schools. Yeah.
Got it.
Mhm.
Yeah. See, the guiding principle for IC and sandboxes, you're an early stage between 0 to 2. You are testing in the location where you actually want to build your after school um, space, and you're working with the demographic that is the group of kids you actually will eventually work with, the target age group and whatnot. So those are the few things. So I think Devashish, what you said likely just fits that.
Okay. Thank you. Means even if we are not testing that idea with the same set of children, means obviously we'll have to finalize the community. Then everything is contingent on community giving you the permission, and then they're coming together for this whole thing. Then with the geography that we are currently working is the same. So the socio-economic economic condition of children are like they are from the same similar background, so that counts, right?
That counts. Same region, similar
Okay.
background. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks, Devashish. Anand, how are we doing? I'm going to give him a number personally and then we're going to get on a WhatsApp call.
Uh, Hi, I have a question.
Yes,
Can I go
Emma.
ahead?
This is
Sorry.
Sachin.
I am Sachin.
Sachin. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Hi, Sid. Actually, I have a question regarding community center. So I run a community center in at Katras. It's in Pune. But I'm thinking to start a preschool in Pune. So for that, I was thinking in during the sandbox time, do when is the time when we are going to go to some school and ask for the premises? Is that something that we have to do, or um can I use my community center to run a preschool model there?
You can absolutely run a preschool model in a space that you already have with a group of kids who are similar in demographics and the background that you eventually want to serve. And this goes for
Okay,
everybody. Yeah. Yeah.
thank
You don't
you.
have to have, so if someone is building, let's say, a PPP model school or a school, you don't need to
Mhm,
have the building and that very space. You're going to pilot
mhm.
something about, or the prototype something about that model in a small scale in whatever space is available with the group of kids you have.
Okay,
That's
what
the
is the
idea.
number of student how that is needed for the prototype?
Yeah, I wish I had a specific number. I feel like it's, let's go with, I think, 10, 15. I've had
Yeah.
spaces where folks have done it with 10 to 12, but I wouldn't go lower than that. So let's aim
Okay,
for 10 and above at least.
thank you. I just had that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sachin.
Siddharth, can I have a question?
Yes, Emma.
Yes, yeah. Just this PPP model, do we need to do inside the government school space? Like, can you give some examples of successfully run models?
Vaishnavi, you're sharing?
So,
Go
sorry,
for it.
can you repeat your question?
I said the PPP models, do we need to run within the government school space for the children in the government school, or there is already run model, any successful model? Could you share some examples?
Yeah, so I can actually share Rishikesh's example. Rishikesh is an entrepreneur from the 25 cohort, and he's working with the kindergarten first, second age group with government schools in Pune. So his sandbox prototype was also conducted in one of the schools in Pune, with one particular classroom. So he tested out his idea over there. And his model is also in partnership with government schools in Pune. We can share more about his organization and what he's doing in case you want to get a deeper
Yeah, it would be
understanding.
useful for me. Thank you.
His organization is called Pencil Brick, but
Okay,
Anaga can share more with you.
sure. Thank you.
Krishna, you want to come off mute and just get clarity on the language question that you had?
Yeah, no, nothing in mind. So I just read one question regarding any language barrier. Is there in that particular application setup or anything video recording the questions regarding? So that's one doubt I actually have. So, but I just saw the question in the chat. So that's why while taking interview process and everything. Yeah.
Can I
Oh,
take that
yeah,
question?
and Anaga, you may want
Yes.
to answer that because I
Yes.
answered for the sandbox.
Okay, all right. So Krishna, there's no language barrier in terms of where your program happens. It can be anywhere
Okay.
in the country. And if you wish to, if your students learn in a language and you communicate with your community in a language that is not English, that is fine as well.
So
However,
yeah.
the incubation itself happens only in English.
Yes, I
That's
got it.
because our
Yes, yes, yes.
cohort comes from across the country, so that's a common
Okay.
language, and so are our
Yes, yes.
facilitators.
Cool.
And also, we do look for are your students learning English within your program as well? Because all of the documents and all of the grant
Yes,
process,
yes,
program
yes.
evaluation, everything that happens on our end in the written format is also only in English.
Yes. So we are currently working in artificial intelligence project. So that's why I have it. Yeah.
That's
Thank
fine.
you.
So your program can be in any language. However,
Okay.
the incubation program is in
Integration.
English.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Anand, what's up, buddy?
So Anand's put his question on chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I can read it out actually. Anurvana was registered in 24 and started working on ground last year in July. Since then, we have around 65 children with whom we work. But my long-term goal is to open a residential art school for year or 2 year. But currently, I'm focusing on the current one, and for that only he's applied. Will that be a problem? Anaga has also asked if you've mentioned that long term goal somewhere in the application, if you've submitted your application already. You have? You have.
Got it. And so, Anand, so for this one is like what period of how long do you want to build your model that you've applied to incubation for? Right. So let's assume it's 5 to 10 years. I think that still should be good. And you're maybe after a decade or so, you want to start your residential art school. Thumbs up. But if it's going to be, let's say, shorter than that, I think that will be a question because there's a lot of investment gone in through the incubation. Then it won't make sense to take on for a short period of time. So I'm assuming a long, because you mentioned long-term goal, it's in the future, like much ahead. So should be okay. And it builds off of this. I think that'll be even more valuable. What you're doing right now, you're going to take learnings in whatever format into your art school. Of course, you know, look at the time period. Thanks, Anand.
All right, folks, any other last questions that we have before we then go into the closing of the space? We'll maybe just pause for 30 seconds. If there's any more questions. The recording of this forum will be available to you. Just to reiterate, the applications do close this weekend. So if you are still in the process of applying and you haven't hit submit yet, I would highly encourage that you get started on that soon. I'm also sharing the link of the application and the um, WhatsApp group on the chat here. If you haven't joined yet, please do join in on that. And yeah, we'll just maybe um, pause for 30 seconds in case there's any last questions.
Ima's hand is raised.
I think it's still raised from the last
Oh,
question.
okay.
Yeah, I asked my question. Thank you so much.
Whose question have we not answered?
I have answered their question, Vaishnavi, and so have you.
Okay.
That during the incubation that they'll have to decide on which program they want to build. All right, folks. Um, Anand, I can share my email ID with you, and my number is also on the WhatsApp group, so you can reach out to me for any application related doubts in case you have any. If you're on the WhatsApp group already. Yeah, so then you can just reach out to me with any of your questions. Happy to take them offline. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm just putting out a short feedback poll for all of your lovely feedback. Um, Again, to reiterate, the applications do close in the next 3 days. Not a lot of time. And there's a lot of video questions, and we are all very excited to read your fantastic applications that do come in. If you do apply, you can expect to hear from us by the 1st of April on your response, like whether you're invited to IC or not. And the IC itself will happen on the 15th and 16th of April in Mumbai.
Um, Anava, can I ask one thing? The timeline related thing, can I schedule something on your calendar, or like I should for the
Um,
sandbox
I'm
thing?
gonna have your question. Let me just check internally and I'll message you. Yeah.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. You don't have to
Thank you.
schedule anything. I'll
Okay.
I'll take it up internally and I'll just get back to you
Yeah,
with the clear dates as soon as we have one.
yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining in, everybody. Please do share your feedback and then you can drop off.
Thank you, everyone, and all the best, whatever you're doing. Let's go.